Hey everybody, this is George Foster, lead news editor for The Gamer, and I am here with the wizard who came from the moon, Eric Switzer. We're here to talk about Destiny 2's The Final Shape. Eric, I am not big on Destiny. Tried it a long time ago, but I know you are, so let's talk about it.
I sure am. Oh boy. All right.
Numbies.
We have so much to talk about. You know, this is my game.
This is your jam, yes.
I have been very high on this game, and I've been very low on this game. And today, I'm very high on this game.
Oh, that's good.
So, you know, the Final Shape is sort of a culmination of 10 years of Destiny storytelling.
Right.
This is the end of what they call the Light and Darkness saga that includes everything that happened in Destiny 1 and then everything that's happened in Destiny 2 up to this point. And
Right.
it's not the end of Destiny 2. I mean, we know at least something about what's going to happen the rest of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as we know, Destiny continues after this, but basically the story that has been told from the very beginning ends. The big bad villain of the entire Destiny universe will be defeated at the end of this thing.
Right.
So obviously, at least narratively speaking, there's a lot riding on this expansion, and then beyond that, trying to sort of come back from Lightfall, which was really considered a disappointment.
I was just going to ask you about Lightfall. I feel like to set up the context of how you feel about Destiny and how the final shape going into that, how you're feeling, I feel like I need to hear how you felt about Lightfall.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that was really let down by Lightfall. I think if Lightfall had been, I guess that there's this rumor, or I guess more speculation, that there is a missing expansion in the in the grand plan, the grand design of Destiny. There ought to have been an expansion between Lightfall and the Final Shape.
Right.
And I think if that had happened, I wouldn't be so hard on Lightfall. But Lightfall needed to answer a lot of questions and set the stakes really high and lead us into this grand finale. And it just really didn't. It just really played out like a sort of villain of the week, self-contained. Like, it didn't have the right gravitas for what Lightfall should have been.
Right, yeah. It introduced like a grappling hook, I feel like I remember.
Yeah. So it had a new subclass called Strand, and that's really great. Strand is awesome. The grappling hook stuff, everything with that. But the way it was introduced really sucked. They would give a little bit to you and then take it away, and then give a little bit back and then take it away. And you didn't, until like long after the story was over, you didn't really get a good idea of what Strand was like. And the story just didn't come together. I don't want to dwell on Lightfall too long, but everyone, myself included, really did not like what Lightfall delivered, and it sort of shook our faith in this story and Bungie's ability to execute on this big finale. But thankfully, so far, that I have to caveat a lot of what I'm going to say.
Always a good sign.
Well, just because, and this is something really important about Lightfall and kind of unique to this expansion, is that this is the story of Lightfall does not end with the campaign, and we're really only here to talk about the campaign,
right?
Because that's all I've played, and I wanted to get my campaign impressions out right away before the raid this week. I think that there's a lot of people that are only sort of into the campaigns, and that's they experience Destiny by just playing that storyline and, you know, maybe doing some of the short-term quests after that, but they're not full-time grinders like me. So we're here to talk about the campaign, and there was a lot. I think that the stakes were really high, not obviously for the characters, but for Bungie to execute on this, and I think they did.
That's good. I heard a lot before the final show. Like I said, I'm not into Destiny, but I generally keep an eye on most things gaming and reactions to it and how people are feeling. And I know the feeling going into the final shape was that, not that this was Bungie's last chance, but for a lot of people it was like Lightfall was such a disappointment. that
Yeah,
going into this, the expectations were this has to be good. Otherwise, like, what is Bungie doing?
right. And I guess the context around it too is relevant, like the obviously the big layoffs, the report that they missed their sales projections by like an astronaut, like 60% last
Oof,
year or something
Jesus.
unbelievable like that. So we know that Bungie's working on Marathon now and has other irons in the fire. They're not just the Destiny studio anymore, but I think it's fair to say, even without being privy to the analytics, that like there's a lot riding on the final shape being a success.
Mhm.
This is really important. I mean, I'm sure every game they release it's every expansion they release, it's really important that it's successful. But this one, it
Especially so.
feels, yeah, this one feels sort of pivotal. Like, what is the future of Destiny going to be? Well, let's see how well Final Shape does. I think that must be a big factor.
Yeah, of course.
So, I want to dig into the story and stuff a little bit, but first I think we have to talk about the launch issues.
We do, yes.
Uh,
They're bad. Like, is Destiny usually this bad for launches?
so this was the worst it's ever been. But even saying that, like, everything is okay now, and it's only a day later. So like there, it's tough, right? Because like the game got review bombed super hard, as all online games do
Yeah.
when they have rough launch, and that is absurd. And I really it's another example of why Steam should lock down reviews for the first 24 hours. But
Hmm.
that aside, like it only took a day to fix the problem, and now anyone who plays the final shape will get the intended experience, so it's not worth dwelling on that much. But
No, I agree.
there's there's some pretty unique things about the Destiny campaign experience that got really ruined for people because of these issues.
How so?
Like, so login issues are one thing. People took the day off work, they expected to play, they paid $100 for the ultimate edition. Like, that's always the thing with
Mm,
with rough launches. With Destiny, a lot of people will play it as just a single player narrative campaign experience. And when you have issues like finishing a mission and then you're supposed to go into a cutscene, but instead you get disconnected,
yeah,
like that's really detrimental to this part of Destiny that's supposed to be all about the story.
yeah. You're missing like
And
the whole point of it then.
the whole point of it, yeah. And you won't even know in some cases. Like, um I played a couple missions on my own, and then I went back and played it with friends. And after the first mission, we disconnected and they missed the cutscene. I knew because I'd seen it, so I pulled it up on YouTube and was like, "Okay, watch the cutscene you just missed."
Oof.
They sort of suspected because we jumped into the next mission and it was like, "Wait, what are we doing? Where are we?"
Yeah,
But I'm sure that some people played stuff and totally didn't even realize that they missed really important cutscenes,
so
really,
they end
really
up just thinking
good
it's
cutscenes.
disjointed. They're just like, oh, this is the storytelling's not as good in the final shape. But it turns out they're just
Yeah.
missing stuff.
Yeah, and that's like, oh, that's so bad. And again, we're only talking about people that played it, yes, like the people that played it the first day and fought through all the server issues and disconnects
Mm.
to
But you have
get
to
it.
imagine that's a lot of people. Like people who care most about Destiny's story are going to be day one. So
It very nearly broke its Steam concurrent player record. It's
oh
like
wow,
315,000 from Lightfall, and it got really close, and it would have if it hadn't been for the server issues. It probably will this weekend still break the record. But yeah, you're totally right. Lots of people were playing it yesterday, and a lot of people had a really bad experience of this relatively short narrative campaign.
mm.
So, yeah, I think that's relevant. It's yeah, there are always issues. This was the worst it's been. It pretty much took 3 hours from when it was supposed to go online until I could even get in the game, and then the entire day I was getting kicked out of missions or not being able to load missions. Menus were super slow. Obviously missing cutscenes, like I said. Like I don't even know how long the campaign is because it pretty much took me from like 2 p.m. until 4 a.m. to and
Jesus
I
Christ.
did replay a few missions, but yeah, it took me a ridiculous amount of time because of the issues.
Are they campaigns? I'm not really sure on Destiny, but I think of campaigns 4 hours at most. That seems like a lot
Longer,
longer. Oh,
longer. Yeah, I mean it's not many missions. They have range. I think Witch Queen was probably like 10 hours, and then Lightfall was probably like 7. But since Witch Queen two seasons ago, they introduced these legendary campaigns like hard mode.
right. Same
And
story,
so,
or
yep, yeah, everything's the same. You just get better gear at the end. They level you up to the power cap just automatically, so you get to basically
oh,
skip the
that's cool.
leveling process. Yeah, because it's like, oh, you're good enough. Just you
You've
know,
passed the trial. Get on with it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I like that.
this is it's hard to remember in the moment each campaign, but this feels like the hardest one
Mm.
of the 3 legendary campaigns, especially the last boss. Yeah, it's really tough. There's 7 quote unquote missions because there's some other like interlude kind of things you do as well.
Yeah,
But they all have puzzles, unique mechanics, big boss fights, big set piece moments. Like they're all really high budget, high polished.
I don't want to use
Uh,
the word epic, but that kind of sounds like where this is.
it is, and it needed to be, right? So okay, so let's get into the story a little bit, right?
Yeah, hit me
So
with it.
okay, so just to catch you up as briefly as possible, boy, right? So bad guy is called the Witness. He's like the pale dude. He looks like Megamind. He's got like smoke with all the heads coming out of him. You've seen him.
Rings kind of a bell, maybe in like key art I've seen, but
So Megamind, aka the Witness, he has carved a portal into the Traveler. The Traveler is God. The Traveler gave us all of our magic light powers.
right.
He has gone inside the Traveler, and his plan is to enact the final shape, which is basically halting. He what the Witness doesn't like is the chaos of life and
Fair, fair.
the
I respect
suffering
that.
that comes with it. Yeah, he makes some good points. He makes some very good points. So his plan is no more life equals no more suffering. So
Christ.
let's lock it down. There's a really cool intro cinematic where you see what his plan would look like, and it's like all the people on Earth they're like frozen, but they're also like cut into like geometric shapes and like separated.
Oh,
Like their faces are like cubed and then moved out of order and stuff. Like the perfect shape is this like weird geometry.
okay, okay. I did
Yeah.
wonder what that had to do with it, but
Yeah. It's very unsettling. The entire uh it, the world within the Traveler, it's called the Pale Heart,
hmm.
is incredibly unsettling. It's this sort of mosaic of every place we've ever been in Destiny, but like subjectively reimagined. It's like it's very dream logic, but it's also like very personal to the characters in the story. It's like reflections of their memories.
Right.
Um,
And therefore for the players as well who've been along for the ride, right?
exactly, yeah, and also a reflection of the Witness who has infected this place, right?
Yeah,
So, the closest comparison I've been able to come up with is that Natalie Portman movie Annihilation.
right.
Have you seen it?
No, that's too
Okay.
too old for my blood. Is that the one with Bruce
It's
Willis?
probably 5 years old, so I don't know what you mean by that.
Oh no, I
But
I mean I'm thinking of Armageddon. That's what I'm thinking of.
so Annihilation, it's based on this Jeff Vandermeer book. It comes from this sort of niche genre called weird fiction.
Right.
But it's about this region in the bayou where this like magic dome has appeared, and everything inside has been like mutated and transformed and has gone through this weird evolution. um, and the Pale Heart feels very much like that. Everything is like, the scale is wrong. Everything's way bigger than it should be, or way smaller. The trees are all like hands, and the branches are fingers.
That's cool. Creepy but cool.
There's It's so creepy. It's such a, yeah, it's this like smashed together composite of familiar places but subjectively reinterpreted, with this like evil influence of the witness. And it's just like peak art direction, incredible level design. Like, it needs to win every award because it's just like, it's absolutely stunning. It's so imaginative. I'm glad that I've got footage that's doing a better job.
Yeah, I need to see this because I'm.
Yeah,
It's hard. It's
explain.
hard as someone who doesn't play Destiny to kind of see what you mean, but
Yeah.
you
So
know, you being so high on it is telling me it's good.
it's really
Essentially,
cool because it's working on multiple levels. Like, the longer you have played Destiny, the more you get out of it, because you are in all these places and you're like, oh my god, wait, this is Braytech
yeah, yeah,
from all these years ago, and the reason we're here is because of this character's connection to that place. And that's not all like front and center in the narrative, but if you have that connection to the story and you know those details, it really all fits together.
yeah. And you'd
That's
assume people would. I wouldn't jump into the final shape as someone who hasn't played Destiny, right? Like this is for people who've been following it for so long. I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm always trying to indoctrinate people into the Destiny cult. So I could tell you 100 reasons why you definitely should play Final Shape, even without that context. But that context definitely makes it a lot more interesting.
Right.
I through the whole, it's like, it's almost like fan servicey, like Easter eggs, like all through the campaign. I was like, oh my god, are we supposed to be in this part of this raid from,
Jeez.
Um, but it all, but yeah, but it also is like serving a contextual purpose. It's
Yeah. So
not just
it's not just like MCU cameo material. It's
exactly.
it's important to what it's
Yeah,
doing. Yeah, I
it
like that.
it fits the story they're telling. Like, it makes sense. And the story that they're telling, we are gearing up for the final showdown with the big bad. But the story is really simple. The first act is sort of a getting the team back together. All the main crew, the core heroes, the Vanguard, have arrived here at different times, and so we have to go find them.
Mm,
They've been scattered throughout this Pale Heart, and when we find each of them is being confronted by something. The witness is trying to manipulate and get in their heads, and they're all so you get reminded of this context about what each of their core conflicts are.
right.
And then once the group is together, it's like, okay, we're gonna go have this showdown, but the group is being torn apart by these conflicts and by the witness puppet string, the heroes, right? So,
Now you're gonna like scoff at this, but it reminds me, just based off what I've heard, it reminds me of the final few hours of Kingdom Hearts 3, where Sora's diving back into everyone's heart to rescue them, to head to this final showdown. Everyone's in bits. That's what I'm getting right now. I'm sure that's not true.
I think there's a connection there.
Yeah.
This is a different show now, but there are some weird connections between Kingdom Hearts and Destiny.
You're just trying to sell me. You're just trying to get me in.
Specific weird connections, like the Deep Stone Lullaby, like one of the most beloved tracks in Destiny, starts with the same chords as Dearly Beloved. There's stuff like that.
Ah.
We don't need to get
That's a different thing. That's
Yeah,
that's Eric sells George on Destiny. That's a different video. Keep an eye out for that one.
Okay, so yeah, so the story is pretty straightforward, but it's because of all the work that they've done building these characters and the conflicts between them and the emotional stakes for each of them. It has such a good payoff, even though it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no
It's
twists and turns.
because they've earned that like investment in these characters that it feels so satisfying just to see them like gear up, fall, rise, defeat evil.
Yeah,
It just works really well. Our beloved Cade Six has returned from the dead.
explain to me how that happened, because that's the one thing I'm like more aware of than the rest of Destiny. Like I do
Yeah.
know Cade,
So Cade was killed in Forsaken, which was year
long
two
time ago.
of Destiny 2. Yeah, long time ago. And he is back through. There's an explanation in the story. Well, there's speculation within the story about why he's back. Different people have different theories about why he's back, and it could definitely have been something very gimmicky, so a sales tactic to get the old heads reinvested.
Yeah,
And it's also a very comic book kind of thing to do, like, oh, no one's ever really dead, and
bring
the
back the big
heroes.
hero.
Uh, yeah, but they they justify it, and it feels very earned. His place in the story makes sense. Like I'm trying really hard to separate like my love for this character and my nostalgia and just like
Yeah.
wanting to see him versus does the story earn it? And
Well,
I think it definitely does.
well, let me jump in there and say that as someone who is like unaware of Destiny and has not been playing it, he's been gone like a really long time. Like it's not just. I'm trying to a good example. Sadly, the only thing I can think of is Family Guy. When Brian dies, he's gone one episode and then he's back. Like that isn't this. Like he's been gone for a
Right.
while. It's not been like made clear he's coming back. Like it was a surprise that he did. So
Yeah.
like it doesn't feel cheap, even from my viewpoint. It's not like they're bringing him in to get people who haven't like been into Destiny for ages back. Like he's just back, and it makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it helps add weight to this story that like this is the end. Like
Yeah,
he needed to be here for the end, sort of
yeah,
thing. Yeah. I think his part in the story is really well done. There's an interesting situation with Commander Zavala because his actor Lance Reddick passed away, right?
yes, of course. I've seen about this.
So this is the first time we've heard the new actor playing Zavala, Keith David, and Keith David's great. I've always loved him. I love him in Community, especially.
Yep, he's good in
Uh,
Saints Row.
and he was in Halo.
Yeah, loads of
Yeah,
things.
yeah. He's great. He's great as Zavala. There's an interesting thing though because um, not to get too spoilery, but Zavala has a bit of a heel turn in this story.
Oh,
So the fact that his voice is a different person sort of maybe conveniently emphasizes that he is acting like a different person,
right.
or maybe it's inconvenient, you know like
Yeah. That's a tough one. I guess it's depends where you fall on it. I feel like maybe that's for the best. Him acting differently
and you
with a
wonder
different voice.
if this was the direction or if they seized the opportunity.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah, if it
Yeah.
was this ever like was it ever hinted at?
So Zavala has been going through a crisis of faith for a long time. So what happens to him in this story definitely makes sense. It is not a totally out of left field thing that Zavala has the hardest time dealing with the Witness's influence out of anyone in the Vanguard. So it definitely makes sense and it plays out, but it is sort of hard to ignore that he doesn't sound like Zavala
Yeah,
and he's not acting like Zavala. So yeah, that I thought that was interesting. I mean, obviously unfortunate. Like,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
um,
Does Keith
yeah,
David do a good job?
yes, yeah, he's great.
Different interpretation. Like it's not
Yeah, he's not doing a Lance Reddick impression, and he couldn't have.
good. I think that's for the best. I don't think
Um,
there's any merit to doing that.
yeah, but I think he does a great job. Yeah. So as I alluded to before, we're only talking about the main campaign, the 7 missions plus that makes up the core story, but the way that the final shape is broken up is that this campaign is sort of Act One, I guess, and then
What?
the post campaign um, is Act Two, and
Ah,
then the raid on Friday is Act Three.
is that in terms of story as well? So you've not technically seen like the
In
whole thing,
in terms of story,
right?
yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So the end of the campaign is a big retreat, and it's like, okay, now we know how to beat the bad guy. We're gonna rally, and we're coming back for his ass on Friday.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
So
unique. That's unique for this kind of to do it as a like how Destiny does it with like the live service kind of elements. Like that hands them a unique opportunity to do that.
yeah, it's super unique because so typically these raids are, let's say it comes out on Tuesday, they'll be not the following Friday, but the Friday after. So you'll have like 2-ish weeks to prepare for the raid,
Yeah,
and then the raid won't be a continuation of the campaign story. It will be connected, but it will be a different
yeah. So
side
you
of
still
the
see the
story.
ending without doing that raid, right?
Yeah, so the campaigns are contained. There's been one other time that they've done this where the story led into the raid and the raid ended the story, and that was the Taken King. And there's definitely a lot of parallels between the Taken King and the Final Shape that I think people are definitely going to pick up on if they've been playing Destiny for a long time.
Mm,
But I thought that was so cool. Like it it ends in a way that does feel satisfying if you're just here for the campaign. I think if you played the campaign, you're definitely gonna want to know what happens in the raid this week. But the
yeah,
fact that it's all happening within 4 days, like, makes it feel like this is a battle that's playing out in real time.
yeah. I like that. That
So
is cool.
like, so I finished the campaign at 4 a.m. or whatever, and now we've got 2 days, and in game there's a countdown to the raid. So
Yeah,
now you've got 2 days to get ready, right? Like, get your weapons leveled up, get the new weapons that you want, because there's lots of new stuff to get too. Like, now we're here, we're preparing for battle, and then Friday is the raid, and Friday is where we're gonna get him. So
yeah.
I,
That
I
is
think that's
epic.
really cool.
I hate
Yeah,
that word, but that is I feel like that's something live service games really excel at is like getting you excited for an upcoming event. But usually, like for my experience, it's usually with Fortnite, and you don't usually get excited about the story. You're just like, oh, it'd be cool to try some new gameplay stuff. But with this, it's
yeah,
like you've done some of the story, but the big conclusion's coming. Like that's
yeah,
cool. That's unique to Destiny, I think.
yeah. So the what I'm calling Act One. So like the campaign is really about um, discovering the witness's weakness and rallying the team, because they're being torn apart for personal reasons, and through the witness's influence, and then through this story we learn what his weakness is. And I'm not going to explain what that is, but I will say that it may feel like a bit of a Deus Ex, that
Right.
it's like, obviously we have to beat the bad guy, and so they had to think of a reason why we're able to beat the bad guy. And I, at my first reaction to it was like, that's a bit convenient. But what it does that's interesting, what it does that's clever, is that it is connected to a couple of core mysteries that have lingered for a long time, for going back to Beyond Light, I think. So 3 expansions back
Yeah.
before Final Shape. Some things that were set up that have like carried through. The answer to the witness is tied to some things that we've known for a long time. So I think that's good. I think,
Yeah.
like, yeah,
So
I think they did a
convenient,
good job.
but it still makes sense. Like
It at least feels like this was always the plan.
right. Okay.
So yeah, so I like that a lot. So we let's talk about the gameplay stuff.
Yeah. Hit me with it.
Um, a few big things. So right off the bat, we get a new subclass. We got one in the last expansion with Strand. This time it's Prismatic. And Prismatic isn't actually a new subclass because it's a combination of every subclass.
Oh,
The whole idea of Prismatic is that you can pick and choose abilities from each class and use them all together.
that's cool for the finale, essentially. Like,
Yeah. So like narratively and thematically, it makes sense. It's a combination of the light and the dark, and you're using them together, and that's your like most powerful form, right? Is being able to take both sides and combine them, because we've been able to use the light and we've been able to use the dark, and now we're using them together, and that's so thematically, it's
very
awesome.
Kingdom Hearts. Very Kingdom Hearts.
It is very Kingdom Hearts. Um, but then like the mechanics of it are so cool because each class has its very self-contained gameplay loop.
Mm,
Like they can be built in different ways, but each class has a really strong identity of like what it does and how you play it. um, and when you take bits and pieces of these classes and put them together, it's there suddenly you it's like you're using these abilities for the first time ever, because they all work together in new ways.
right.
So you don't have those really familiar, like when I play my solar class, for instance, I use a melee build. So I dodge, which refills my melee. I throw my knives, which scorches them. While they're debuffed, I get my dodge back. When I dodge, it refills my melee. So I have this loop that I'm really
Yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with, where it all works together like this like machine of dodge, punch, dodge,
Hmm.
throw knife. But I can throw the knives in Prismatic, but I don't have the other pieces of solar that enable that loop. So I have to find a new loop, and they exist because you have other pieces of other classes and they all fit together in a new way. So like learning how using all these old abilities together in new ways has been really cool.
Like reshuffling the puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's hard to break the muscle memory,
Mm,
because when I throw the knives out, I'm like, I know what to do now. Now I dodge punch, turn invisible, dodge punch. Like,
yeah, yeah.
so now I throw the knives, and then then my whatever doesn't happen, and I'm like, wait, what? Why didn't that activate? And it's like, no, that's not what I'm doing now. Like, I have a different thing now, and I don't know what that thing is yet, because I'm still collecting the pieces of it and building the
It's
prismatic
still early.
class. So
Still early.
yeah. One of the big criticisms of Lightfall, like I mentioned before, was the way that Strand was. It took so long to get, and they'd give it to you so you could play with, and then they'd take it away, and then you'd get a piece of it and a small piece. Here, it feels like they took that criticism and answered it directly, because you get Prismatic in the first mission
Right.
with a starter build that works. Like, it has synergies, it makes sense. For Hunter, it's this combination of solar and stasis, so it's fire and ice,
Mm,
and so you're like freezing dudes and then blowing them up,
that's cool.
and you get this new grenade that makes this cyclone that freezes them, and then a cyclone of fire that blows them up. So it fits with the whole theme of the class. So that's like they're showing you this is what Prismatic can be, and then throughout the campaign, every time you finish a mission or finish a milestone, you're getting more pieces of Prismatic so that you can start customizing it. It's
Right.
almost like I'm a card player, right? So it's almost like building a deck.
Okay.
It feels like.
Is it? So this is again outsider looking in. Is it not a little disappointing that it's not something brand new and it's more like a remix, I guess? Or are you happy that it is that?
So, um, so there's a. It's not just a mix of random abilities,
Right.
because part of Prismatic is a new ability, I guess. It's called like Ascendance,
Mm,
and so whenever you deal damage with light abilities and weapons, it fills a meter, and when you deal damage with dark abilities and weapons, it fills a meter, and when both meters are full, you can activate Transcendence. And when you're in Transcendence, you're like super powered. You get your special grenade, your abilities fill really fast, your guns are stronger, and there are enemies that you can like break their shields when you're ascended.
Mm.
So you have this new ascendant mode.
And that's brand new. Like that's totally new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for this class. Um, but yeah, I definitely see the point of like, oh well, it's just all the abilities we already have remixed, but it's there's so much thought put into the which abilities you have access to and how those abilities work together. I think that it does feel like a bespoke class. Like
I
the game
feel
had to change around Prismatic for it to
yeah.
work.
I feel like that's the veteran versus newcomer slash knows nothing about Destiny viewpoint.
Hmm.
Whereas you've been playing Destiny so long that you understand how everything works, and getting the chance to mix these things together is really interesting.
Yeah,
But for someone who, outside looking in, big finale would want something brand new, I guess.
yeah, and
But it is like new.
and it would be, I think, I would imagine, kind of overwhelming
Yeah, that's
to.
that's what I'm getting a lot of with the final shape. That as much as what you're saying sounds cool, I'm like, yeah, I'll wait for Destiny 3. I'll give it some time. This is a lot.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel that. Yeah, I mean, every expansion, I wonder, is this going to be the new player one? And I don't think that this one makes an effort to do that.
No, I
And
don't think it has to though. I think as a finale, we've talked a lot about Kingdom Hearts with something that's not Kingdom Hearts, but like, don't jump in with Kingdom Hearts 3. Don't do it. Like, this isn't
sure,
for
yeah,
new people, and I feel like it's the same here.
yeah. But it also introduces some new class pieces that you can use in Prismatic. So, like for Hunter, I have a new arc. Arc is one of the subclasses. That's the electricity one. So I have a new arc super and a new arc aspect that I can use in arc class, but I can also use those in Prismatic.
Mm.
And it has a very cool story beat when you unlock those. It's this moment of like it's a little bit of an all is lost moment, and then getting these new powers is this reminder that the traveler's still with you and
Ooh,
still, yeah. And when you get this new power, they've done this in Destiny a bunch of times, but you have unlimited super for this time period. You can just keep doing it over and over,
that's
and
cool.
they just throw like 1,000 dudes at you, and they're just like go nuts.
I
And
love an all is lost moment where you recoup from it. That's one
yeah,
of my favorite tropes.
yeah, and so the hunter one, they're all really cool. The hunter one is you throw this giant knife, and wherever it lands, you teleport, catch it, and then spin around and kill everything.
Ooh,
So for like 4 minutes, you have this big battlefield of like 1,000 dudes, and you're just like throwing the knife teleport, throw the knife teleport, throw the knife teleport, throw the knife. It's so cool, man. The
See, that
tight
makes me want to play Destiny. Like, that's the problem. It's
the Titan one, they summon this giant double headed um, void axe, and they throw it, and it turns into three, and then the whole team can all go pick one up and just
that's
start
sick.
going nuts with these axes. Yeah, yeah, it's super fun. Yeah, I played on the legend difficulty, and I took Prismatic right from the beginning, and I kept it through the entire campaign. It was good enough to make it work for even this like hard mode. I didn't have to like fall back on my familiar builds to get through it. It felt strong enough.
Do you see it
Uh,
becoming your main usage one or no?
um, a lot of that depends on the season, because like one mechanic of Destiny is this. It's called the seasonal artifact, and it
Mm,
has all these perks, and the perks change every season, and the perks will make certain classes stronger for that season. So that'll sort of determine what I'm playing, because it gives
yeah,
so many bonuses and it's so strong. Um, yeah, when I first saw Prismatic, I was like, oh, why would you play any other class? Again, and you definitely lose a lot of the synergies that those classes have. So there's definitely still good reasons to play the full build of Solar or Void or
yeah,
whatever. But Prismatic's super fun. You don't unlock all of it in the campaign. A lot of you have to find the rest of the pieces hidden throughout the world. So it's sort of a good incentive to go explore more once you finish the story and go see parts of the world you missed.
Mm.
So I still have to unlock all the pieces of it and see what I can put together. Um,
I mean, you have you done any of the like post campaign stuff yet, or have you literally just done campaign?
yeah, I just finished the campaign. I took a look at the triumphs, like the achievements, so I have kind of an idea of what else there is to do. There's an exotic quest, which is how you get the new special gun, and then there's I believe two hidden exotic quests out there to find that people have uncovered. There's like collectibles, and there's definitely stuff to do before the raid. But the big question is like, what happens in the raid and what happens after the raid, because we have precedents. And now, like, big caveat, this was like the Activision era, and they have said that we're never going to get an expansion the size of Forsaken again. But after Forsaken's raid, The Last Wish, a whole new world appeared.
Ah,
Yeah,
and this is the finale, so you'd kind of expect
s-
something big.
you kind of expect something's going to happen. Yeah. Um, we know that like the seasonal content will start next week at reset, but we don't know what's going to happen in the raid and what's going to happen after the raid, other than we're going to kill the witness. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's exciting. I'm disappointed that Summer Games Fest had to be this week because I'm going to miss the whole event. But it definitely feels like an event. It feels like the event it needed to be, um, for this finale.
So you're happy?
I'm pretty happy. Yeah, I mean, like, once again, I'm only talking about the campaign. So I, but I think the campaign did what it needed to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it was a pretty satisfying. If you know going in that you're not going to beat the witness in the campaign and wrap everything up with a nice bow, like it. I guess if you go into the campaign thinking you're just going to play a complete thing and then find out that the end of the campaign is we'll see you Friday, you might you might be like, oh, what the hell?
Especially if
Um,
you stayed up till 4 a.m. like you
yeah,
did.
but I knew they have said that's what's going to happen, and I knew that was going to happen. So when
Right,
I
right.
when I saw the cutscene at the end and how it all plays out, I was super hyped. And then
Yeah.
when I saw like the fight with the witness will continue soon, I was like, hell yeah, let's do this. Like, yeah, it was very cool, man. Yeah,
It's nice
really.
to hear some positivity about Destiny. Like I wish it the best. You know, it's not for me so
Hmm.
far. I've tried. It has never caught me like it has you, but it's always good when, especially after Lightfall. Like to me, that seemed not like the end of Destiny, but it seemed as if things weren't going so well.
Definitely seemed grim. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely
So to
seemed
come up
very
from
grim.
that is nice. It's nice to see you positive.
Yep. Yeah, it's a blast. I had a really good time with it. It's paced so well. There's really nothing. I have very little complaints. I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect.
Mm.
Um, there's some weird there's some weird story moments that I was like, that was unexpected in kind of a bad way.
Right.
But I think if you've been playing Destiny for a long time, that you probably have very specific expectations about what this finale needed to accomplish, which loose ends it needed to tie up, how it needed to tell its story, and that's going to be pretty much impossible for Bungie to succeed in fulfilling everyone's very specific requirements for what a finale should be.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that the story it decided to tell was succinct, focused, and pretty satisfying. So
And not
yeah,
even over yet, technically. I mean,
and
we
not
see how
over
it ends.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you got
Very
any other
cool.
thoughts? Anything else you want to say about the final shape?
I just want to shout out our guides, man, because I think like Charles, who writes 99% of our Destiny guides and has done so for many years, is producing honestly the best guides for Destiny that there are. And I mean, I love our guides teams. They do great work. I never shout them out when we do our videos. But
We should more. Yeah.
yeah, but specifically, I think our Destiny guides are so good. I was a bit lapsed going into Final Shape, and I had a lot to catch up on from the past like 2 seasons. And those guides were just like, here's what you need to know. It's very clear. There's pictures for everything. It's organized well. Yeah, I think our Destiny guides rule. If you're looking for the Lost Ghosts, or you're looking for all the prismatic chests to unlock the rest of the prismatic aspects and fragments, I think you should definitely check out our guides. They're super good.
Yeah, I'll second that. Even as not a Destiny person, our guides seem are phenomenal. Until Friday, though, or until the next chance we get for you to talk more Destiny, that is it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. You can find out more about the Final Shape on the website. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's the gamer, no spaces.